page. My name is Carrie, and I'm a mental health advocate. I live in Las Vegas, and I am so passionate about helping people overcome some of the challenges to not just like spirituality, but more of transformation, self growth. That's an important topic in life, and it's not discussed enough out there yet, but it is getting much more popular. I'm sure we can Google everything I'm going to talk about, but sometimes people might be an audio learner and need to hear it, or sometimes they'll visualize it and none of this might make sense. So I'm just going to be vulnerable so that I can help some person out there realize that they're not alone in loving themselves when nobody else seems like they do. So that's what I'm going to be talking today. I wrote a blog yesterday and it's been a huge hit. It actually caused my site to crash today. And I had no idea that this was something so many people had felt in their head. But what I was talking about was after a really stressful situation yesterday, I finally set some boundaries and it just reaffirmed how much I need to take care of myself and love myself in order to take care of myself, set boundaries, refuse to be talked to the way I'm talked to, or use things like that were leading up to this. And I realized I wasn't practicing self-love. You don't let people treat you like that. But most importantly, you can't treat you like that. I can't treat me like that. And I'm not talking about externally. Internally, we have this self-talk. And a lot of you have probably heard of that, our inner dialogue. But we don't know. This is something I learned through research and education and a lot of stuff on the internet and books, that is that our inner dialogue is there constantly, and it creates fear and it creates stress, and we're hardwired for some of these emotions. So fighting through those on top of everything else we fight for is just going to be pure challenging. So the first step that I've ever taken to start really loving myself was realizing that I'm in the driver's seat and that I'm going to be with me for the rest of my life, nobody else. I see the finish line before anyone else even knew there was one. No one knows the goals I have, and even if you reflect on our world, right, our results are binary. They either make or break us in perceptions of other people. And we've been molded by other people in society for how many generations, told what to do, how to love each other, how to love our spouse, who could even be our spouse was the argument for a long time. And so I changed my perspective to realize how important I was. And I don't think it's selfish anymore. I think that in order to fill someone else's cup, I gotta fill my cup up first. I also learned this great analogy. It's like when you're in an airplane and suddenly you're having an emergency and they throw down all the masks, from the airplane. They say, what? Like, please put your own mask on before you help others. And that's so true. How can you help everyone around the plane get where they want to go and give them their oxygen masks if you're not wearing yours? So after I had like a perception change, I started to just realize that like failure is going to happen, and people will perceive that however they want. But it doesn't need to matter to us. What needs to matter is that we don't give up on ourselves, because we're supposed to be our biggest advocate. We're supposed to be there, and when it gets tough and we want to quit, we're not going to get out. We're not going to step down. We're going to step up. And when we want to leave and we're crying and it's an upset day, don't cry and quit. Like, cry and fight through that. If you're an adventurer and your head's always in the clouds, like thinking of all these dreams, like I know so many people like that, and that's an amazing place to live. So go like after the adventures. You deserve it. Like, love yourself. Go after, dream and dream and dream until you're in the clouds and someone has to like reel you back in, because you are worth it. No one is going to advocate bigger and stronger for you than you. So once I realized that not only was I not practicing a belief in myself, I might say it, but it's one thing to say it and then walk my talk, right? So this is me again holding myself accountable, but more importantly, giving you guys anything that might be helpful, because if you if we're not starting to tune into who we are and our self dialogue and the way we talk to ourselves, if you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh my God, I can't even look at my face, or I've been there before. Like, that's an example of not loving yourself, and you are too important to not love yourself. You get one chance to do this life. Do you want to really live it for other people, or do you want to live it for yourself? And the last part is about fear. There's a million different ways that fear completely destroys but also owns our lives. But if we can develop a mentality to believe in ourselves, then the next stage is just this resilience to get through the fear despite what you think the worst possible outcome could be. Because did you know, I actually read this in a science book, that only about like 8% of our fears that we think about every day, and we have like hundreds of thousands subconsciously reoccurring, only 8% of what we fear about in our entire life will ever happen. So if you think of all these reasons that we have fear and anxiety and things like that, just go back to thinking it's like ground yourself. However that works for you. You could log on Pinterest instead of me watching this and find a million ways to meditate, a million ways to take care of yourself and love yourself. But all I want to say is I just want you to focus on it. I just want you to care about it, because that's what's going to make a difference in your life. I picked up one of those books one time at it was $1 at Barnes & Noble on the way out. And it changed my life. And it was literally called Change Your Thinking, Change Your Life. And I've let that go at times and spiral downhill. But for the most part, there were so many powerful statements in there. I highly recommend reading that book, because it teaches us the science behind our brains, and it teaches us just so much more about the power of perception. So I hope you got from this video that it's important to love yourself, to advocate for yourself, because you see the finish line before anyone even knew it existed. So love yourself. You're loved, but you'll feel more fulfilled when you're loving yourself. Because one last example, like when we go to work, we know where we're going. That's predictable. And when we get paid, we know what that's going to be. When we're driving, we usually know where we're going to go. All of those things lower our self-esteem, because it's like, what's next? Like, what are we going to lean into next? We have no time for ourselves. And so we start to feel like our life's just on this circle loop of like boring chaos. Is this what I'm meant for? No, hell no. Get out there. Take off the fear and just step into yourself, which is what the first video talked about. But love yourself, okay? You deserve it. And no one's going to say greater things to you than you. And no one's going to call you up and say what a great idea that was at the meeting today. But you can say that to yourself, and it'll mean so much more. And don't forget about fear. It has such a huge impact on the way we stress out, and stress impacts our body. It's like chain reaction after chain reaction. So try to just adjust one small, not everything overnight. It's kind of like nature, right? Nothing blooms overnight, but they're beautiful when they get there. We're just like that. We have to do one small habit change at a time. But if there's anything that you could change, I would highly recommend it being learning to love yourself and pushing through the fear. I'm wishing you all the best. I could talk to you guys forever. Please subscribe and give me some feedback. Namaste.